What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the PT Coffee Cast, brought to you by The Movement. My name is Dalton, and alongside me today is my beautifully bearded friend, William. William, how are we doing today?
Doing good. I had a good weekend. Went golfing. Had some barbecue.
Dude,
Overall, it was real solid.
that sounds great. I didn't have a barbecue, but I did golf.
How did it go?
Honestly, it wasn't bad. I went out with my dad, my girlfriend, and my brother, so it was a good, nice little family bonding experience. I'm getting there.
Yeah?
I can't drive yet off the tee, but I was hitting my 7 off the tee, and that was working for me. We just played a par 3, and that was working for me, so I just stuck with it.
Beautiful. I wish I could say the same thing. Front 9, I actually was probably golfing better than I ever had. Back 9, complete reverse.
Yeah, I only played 9 because I'm not ready for 18 yet.
No, I know. I feel like what I need to do is play 9 holes because by the back 9, I just spiral.
Yeah.
And I get too tired and then lazy. It
Which
is what it is.
Yeah, it's not a good combination for a bad golfer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about golf, are we?
Definitely not. We're here to talk about some fun stuff. But before we get into some fun stuff, if you guys aren't following the podcast, make sure you follow on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. You guys can subscribe there so you don't miss out on an episode. If you aren't following us on Instagram, head over there, follow us at PT Coffee Cast. We are taking applications for our second cohort. So if you guys are interested in joining that, the application is still open. You can fill that out and we will get you on an intro call, get you ready to go and into that cohort. We're super stoked about getting that off the ground. And then if you aren't subscribed to us on YouTube, make sure you head over there, subscribe so you can see our beautiful faces on the interwebs. But that's all we got for that part of the episode. Let's get into I was just about to wrap up the podcast before we even started. My brain just goes into just triggers, and I literally thought I was wrapping up the podcast.
Like we've done 250 podcasts, so you're in automatic.
Yeah, so we're not going to end the podcast. What we're going to talk about today is this idea around trust and building connection, and how if you don't have, let me try to figure out how I want to say this. You can have connection without having trust, and you can have trust without having connection with a client, and how you can utilize either of those to build the other one. So this kind of came out of a conversation I was having with one of our mentees around how they felt like they were having a hard time connecting with clients on the first session, which in general is a very hard thing. You're never going to connect with someone right away all the time on the first session. It takes time to build that. However, she was kind of getting a little bit thrown off by that, and it was impacting the way that she approached the client, which kind of triggered this thought around, if you're not building connection with someone right away, you don't have to keep trying to force that connection. You can try and focus on building trust. And then vice versa, you can have a ton of connection with someone. You're vibing. You guys are a good fit for each other. They like all the stuff that you like, but that doesn't guarantee that you have trust. So I think those things are mutually exclusive of one another, but they can be used to help enhance one another, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if you have connection and you're building trust, it can kind of combine forces and make for a better overall experience. But if you don't connect immediately, then you can still build trust.
Yes. Yeah, and I think the ultimate thing that we're trying to do with clients that come through the door is we're trying to have them trust us, because without the trust, then it doesn't really matter what you do. They're probably not going to have a good outcome, or they're just not going to come back to you. So trying to figure out how we can enhance that is super important. And then obviously we do want to connect with clients, because we know how much connecting can do to build that trust. Plus, it just makes it a lot better when you're connecting with a client. It makes the experience better for you. It makes it better for the client that's coming in. So we ultimately want to get both of these things, but it doesn't always go as smooth as we would like to, and how we can use either of those to leverage one another.
Yeah, because sometimes maybe that client isn't in a place at the beginning to establish a connection, and like how many times do we have it where you don't really connect, you don't really vibe with somebody, but as you're going through and you're building trust by moving toward the goalpost that they're after, then all of a sudden you start connecting.
Yeah.
Because they're in a better place for that. They have your trust, or the other way around. And so that, like, at the beginning, if you're in pain and you're stressed and you're trying to figure out, is this person in a position to help me? It's hard to, like, really connect and be kind of loose, to actually connect. Does that make any sense, or did I just talk in circles?
No, I think you're right. Like, if someone's, like, stressed, uncertain, fearful, not in a positive headspace, like, you're not in a prime situation to connect with that person. And so that might come across as like they're not interested, or this person doesn't like me, which then can impact you as a clinician focusing on building the trust. And I think that was what was happening with the mentee that I was talking with. And what I kind of told her was, hey, if you're identifying that like you guys really aren't vibing right away, like you're picking up on that, like you're reading the room, don't get so hung up on that and try to continue to just force that connection. Something we preach often to our mentees and the people that come and work for us here at the movement is like, take the first 5 to 10 minutes to build rapport and try and connect with the client, which is great. But if that's not happening, don't sit there and try to force it. Like, that's not going to make it better. And what I was kind of telling her was like, if you're identifying this, just move on to building trust with that client, which ultimately, in my opinion, is identifying what their problem is and then position yourself as someone who can help them solve their problem and communicate that effectively to them. So you start going into that process and focusing on that. And I've found as you start to move into that and you position yourself as someone who can help this individual and you're actually listening to what they're struggling with and you're going to help solve their problem, even in that moment, like in that initial assessment, they can start to open up and start to share a little bit more with you and connect a little bit more with you in that moment, which is great. But sometimes it doesn't happen that way. But as long as you're moving towards building trust with that client, they're going to continue to come back to you, which is just more touch points for you to build like a connection with them. So not getting so hung up on the fact that you're not connecting with them at the start, so that you're not even getting into building the trust, which is ultimately probably more important for them to commit to you long term.
The trust is coming through the fact that they feel that you have the knowledge and capability to help them get to their goal, to get better, to get out of pain, to get back to what they want to do.
Totally. And I think that is, and then I think all of us as clinicians, most out of like certain circumstances where you might have to refer out because it's not in your realm, but like we all have the knowledge and the understanding on how to do it. We then have to be able to communicate that effectively. And that's a big part of what we need to focus on in the initial assessment is like, how do I solve the problem, understand what they need, and then communicate it to them effectively. And that's what we should, really be focusing on. And that ultimately is going to get commitment long term. The connection, immediate connection is great, but the connection is also something that enhances that process, but doesn't necessarily have to be there in order to build trust. And I think were you going to say something?
Yeah, like you could have a situation where you do really connect, but they don't necessarily see that you're the person to solve their problem, or that the solutions that you're offering don't make sense to them. And maybe there wasn't the right level of communication there for them to see that. And just because you guys got along really well doesn't in and of itself mean that they're going to continue with you.
Totally, yeah. And I think I've even had this happen in the past, is that you get maybe a little bit too far on the spectrum of like connecting with this person and you guys are really vibing and like they like what you have to say and you're getting along, that you almost lose sight of the fact that you still need to really build trust with this person by like solving their problem. And I've gotten caught up in like maybe focusing, like it's like a false sense of trust. Like I thought that they really trusted me because like we were vibing and they liked me and like I liked them, but then the trust actually wasn't there, and then they end up not like coming back or seeing the value in it, and they end up falling off even though that connection piece was really high.
Yeah, I think if you're relying too much on the connection, it can get you into trouble, because like you have to think about, like, we're people too. We have preferences. We have like types of people that we tend to like and things that we like doing, and you're not always going to really connect with people either, right? So like I've had clients where we have successful outcomes together and never really have that strong of a connection. Like we do in a sense, but it's more built on trust and like an understanding of how we work and how I'm going to help them, and that I'm going to make sure that process is consistent, right? But ultimately, it's not like we're going to be friends.
Yeah.
Right?
And you don't have to be, right? And I think you can use connection to leverage trust. Like it can really help you if you're using that in the right way, but you don't need connection to build trust. And ultimately that's what we're trying to focus on when it comes to the initial assessment. And, just to reiterate, we think building trust is like listening to the client, understanding what their problem is, having a solution for their problem, and then communicating that effectively to them. And that's why we focus so much on, the micro and macro purposes of an initial assessment, so that we can break it down to leverage building that trust, right? Like we want to be able to identify their problem and then use the assessment to highlight that problem, and then sit them down and educate them on what's going on and how we're going to provide them with the solution, and then what the process is. So we introduce a 3-step plan that's like calm it down, build it up, bridge the gap, which is then communicating to them the process so that they have trust that you're identifying, providing them with a solution, and then laying out a plan clearly that's going to get them to where they want to go. And that's what we think builds trust with clients, and what the main focus of your initial assessment should be on, and then your first couple follow-up sessions. Connection is there because we know how important it is to connect, but that connection can just help enhance that trust process. But connection alone isn't going to take you or your client to the promised lands.
Yeah, you still want to do things and put things in place in your systems and your framework to try to build connections. Like you want to be intentional with that, but we're just trying to show people that if you don't have that, it's okay, and you can still be really successful.
Yeah, don't get caught up in it, because it is like something you can get caught up in. And like I'm glad she brought it up, because I think like especially early on in my career, like because at the time, and it still is very much talked about, the importance of with like building therapeutic alliance and connecting with clients, it's so much at the forefront of like everything you do. You put a lot of pressure on that, and then if it doesn't happen, you start to think like, oh damn, like this is not going to work, or am I not doing something right? So I can see how that could be a little bit like frustrating or worrisome if you're really focusing on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah,
I
think that's it.
Yeah.
Get it out.
Connection, trust, connection, yeah. Connection, trust,
I think what we came to, this is why I like these podcasts, because it helps me like suss out some of the thoughts that I have. Like, I think the main thing is that like you can use connection to leverage trust, and ultimately the most important thing is to build the trust. If you don't have connection, you can still build that trust if you're focusing on the principles that we just talked about. And I think that that's a good thing, because if you don't get caught up in the fact you're not connecting right away and you focus on building the trust, eventually some form of connection may come. But even if it doesn't come, it's okay. It doesn't matter. You're still going to help that client because they trust you. You're going to get them to where they want to go. All right.
Good sussing.
That's all we got for today, guys. Before we wrap up, though, if you want more from us, make sure you head over to our Instagram page at PT Coffeecast. We put out a ton of free content there, clips from the podcast, some beautiful graphics that Will puts up. We also have our applications for our second cohort open. We're super stoked about that. So if you're interested in joining the mentorship, you can fill out an application there, and we'll get you on an intro call. And then actually, as this recording goes out, we are hosting a free webinar. So we'd love for you guys to join. So the link in the bio is there, but essentially we're taking you through like our initial assessment process and like the things that we really focus on. So, kind of what we talked about today, the macro and micro focuses of the initial assessment. It's a free webinar. You can join through the link in the bio. We'd love to have you. It's going to be about an hour long. We're going to chat with you guys a little bit, and then we're going to have some interactive stuff going on. So it won't be just like you sit there and consume Will and I talking. We're going to get you guys involved. So we're super stoked about that. But yeah, that's all we got for today, guys. As always, stay caffeinated. Peace.